सर्ववादिं पश्यामि विश्वेश्वर विश्वरूप पश्यामि विश्वेश्वर विश्वरूप पश्यामि विश्वेश्वर विश्वरूप किरीटिनं गदिनं चक्रिणं च तेजोराशिं सर्वतो दीप्तिमन्तं पश्यामि त्वां दुर्निरीक्ष्यं समन्तात् दीप्तानलार्कद्युतिमप्रमेयम् त्वमक्षरं परमं वेदितव्यं त्वमस्य विश्वस्य परन्निधानं त्वमव्ययः शाश्वतधर्मगोप्ता सनातनस्त्वं पुरुषो मतो मे सनातनस्त्वं पुरुषो मतो मे सनातनस्त्वं पुरुषो मतो मे अनादिमध्यान्तमनन्तवीर्यम् अनन्तबाहुं शशिसूर्यनेत्रं पश्यामि त्वां दीप्तहुताशवक्त्रं स्वतेजसा विश्वमिदं तपन्तं स्वतेजसा विश्वमिदं तपन्तं स्वतेजसा विश्वमिदं तपन्तं स्वतेजसा विश्वमिदं तपन्तम् द्यावा पृथिव्योरिदमन्तरं हि व्याप्तं त्वयैकेन दिशश्च सर्वाः दृष्ट्वाद्भुतं रूपमुग्रन्थवेदं लोकत्रयं प्रव्यथितं महात्मन् लोकत्रयं प्रव्यथितं महात्मन् लोकत्रयं प्रव्यथितं महात्मन् अमीहि त्वां सुरसङ्घा विशन्ति केचिद्भीताः प्राञ्जलयो गृह्णन्ति स्वस्तीत्युक्त्वा महर्षिसिद्धसङ्घाः स्तुवन्ति त्वां स्तुतिभिः पुष्कलाभिः रुद्रादित्या वसवो ये च साध्याः विश्वेश्विनो मरुतश्चोष्मपाश्च गन्धर्वयक्षासुरसिद्धसङ्घा वीक्षन्ते त्वां विस्मिताश्चैव सर्वे रूपं महत्ते अनेकवक्त्रनयनम् अनेकाद्भुतदर्शनम् अनेकदिव्याभरणं दिव्यानेकोद्यतायुधम् दिव्यमाल्याम्बरधरं दिव्यगन्धानुलेपनं सर्वाश्चर्यमयं देवम् अनन्तं विश्वतोमुखम् अनन्तं विश्वतोमुखम् अनन्तं विश्वतोमुखम् दिवि सूर्यसहस्रस्य भवेतु कपदुत्थिता यदि भासदृशी सा स्याद्भासस्तस्य महात्मनः तत्रैकस्थं जगत्कृत्स्नं प्रविभक्तमनेकधा अपश्यद्देवदेवस्य शरीरे पाण्डवस्तदा ततः स विस्मयाविष्टो हृष्टरोमा धनञ्जयः प्रणम्य शिरसा देवं कृताञ्जलिरभाषत 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 अर्जुन उवाच पश्यामि देवांस्तव देवदेहे सर्वांस्तथा भूतविशेषसङ्घान् ब्रह्माणमीशं कमलासनस्थं ऋषींश्च सर्वानुरगांश्च दिव्यान् पश्यामि देवांस्तव देवदेहे सर्वांस्तथा भूतविशेषसङ्घान् ब्रह्माणमीशं कमलासनस्थं ऋषींश्च सर्वानुरगांश्च दिव्यान् अनेकबाहूदरवक्त्रनेत्रं पश्यामि त्वां सर्वतोऽनन्तरूपं नान्तन्न मध्यन्न पुनस्तवादिं पश्यामि विश्वेश्वर विश्वरूप पश्यामि विश्वेश्वर विश्वरूप पश्यामि विश्वेश्वर विश्वरूप किरीटिनं गदिनं चक्रिणं च तेजोराशिं सर्वतो दीप्तिमन्तं पश्यामि त्वां दुर्निरीक्ष्यं समन्तात् दीप्तानलार्कद्युतिमप्रमेयम् त्वमक्षरं परमं वेदितव्यं त्वमस्य विश्वस्य परन्निधानं त्वमव्ययः शाश्वतधर्मगोप्ता सनातनस्त्वं पुरुषो मतो मे सनातनस्त्वं पुरुषो मतो मे सनातनस्त्वं पुरुषो मतो मे अनादिमध्यान्तमनन्तवीर्यम् अनन्तबाहुं शशिसूर्यनेत्रं पश्यामि त्वां दीप्तहुताशवक्त्रं स्वतेजसा विश्वमिदं तपन्तं स्वतेजसा विश्वमिदं तपन्तं स्वतेजसा विश्वमिदं तपन्तं स्वतेजसा विश्वमिदं तपन्तम् द्यावा पृथिव्योरिदमन्तरं हि व्याप्तं त्वयैकेन दिशश्च सर्वाः दृष्ट्वाद्भुतं रूपमुग्रन्थवेदं लोकत्रयं प्रव्यथितं महात्मन् लोकत्रयं प्रव्यथितं महात्मन् लोकत्रयं प्रव्यथितं महात्मन् अमीहि त्वां सुरसङ्घा विशन्ति केचित्
the visual key then is gone off. I saw the visual is now. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Hariom, we start with a prayer. Vasudeva Sudam Devam Kamsachanuramardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. Chapter 12. Arjuna Uvacha Evam Satatayuktaye Bhaktasvam Payupasate Ye Chapyaksharamau Vyaktam Tesham Ke Yoga Vittama Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Vishwamano Ye Mam Nityayukta Upasate Shraddhaya Parayopetas Te Me Yuktatamamata Ye Tvaksharam Anirdesham Avyaktam Parupasate Sarvatra Gamachintyam Cha Kutashtam Achalam Dhruvam Samniyam Yendriya Gramam Sarvatra Samabuddhaya Te Prapnuvanti Mameva Sarvabhutahite Rata Kleshodhikatarastesham Avyakta Sattachetasam Avyakta Higatir Dukkham Dehavad Viravapyate Yetu Sarvani Karmani Mai Samyasya Matpara Ananyena Yogena Madhyayanta Upasate Teshamaham Samudharta Mrityu Samsara Sagarat Bhavami Nachirat Partha Maya Vesita Chetasam Mayeva Manadatsva Mai Buddhim Niveshaya Nivashishyasi Mayeva Atha Udvam Nashamsaya Atha Chittam Samadatum Nastatnosi Mayi Stiram Abhyasa Yogena Tato Mami Chaptum Dhanam Jaya Abhyasebhya Samartosi Madkarma Paramo Bhava Madartham Api Karmani Kurvan Siddhimavapshasi Athaitadapya Sattosi Kartum Madyogamashrita Sarva Karma Phalatyagam Tata Kuru Yatatmavan Shreyo Hyanamabhyasaj Jnana Dhyanam Vishishyate Dhyanat Karma Phalatyagas Tyagat Shantiranantaram Advishta Sarva Bhutanam Maitra Karuna Evacha Nirmamo Nirahamkaraha Samadukha Shukakshami Samtushta Satatam Yogi Yatatma Dhritanishchaya Mayarpita Mano Buddhir Yo Madbhakta Save Priya Yasmano Dvijate Loko Lokano Dvijate Chaya Harsha Marsha Bhayodvegir Muktoya Sachame Priya Anapeksha Suchirdaksha Udasino Gatavyata Sarvarambha Parityagi Yo Madbhakta Same Priya Yo Narishyati Nadvishti Nasochati Nakakshati Shubha Shubha Parityagi Bhakti Manya Same Priya Samasatra Cha Mitrecha Tatha Mana समासङ्गविवर्जिता तुल्यनिन्दास्तुतिर्मौनी सन्तुष्टो येन केनचित् अनिकेतस्थिरमतिर्भक्तिमान् मे प्रियो नरः ये तु धर्म्यामृतमिदं यदुक्तं पर्युपासते श्रद्धधाना मत्परमा भक्तास्तेतीव मे प्रिया। ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीता सूपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे भक्तियोगो नाम द्वादशोऽध्यायः। हरि ओम तत्सत् हरि ओम तत्सत् हरि ओम तत्सत्। श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु। शुभं भूयात्। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्।
Hari Om to all of you. Okay, last week we've completed chapter 11, verse number 44. So today we'll proceed with verse number 45. So what we have seen so far in this chapter, beginning from verses 4 and 5, Arjuna made a request to the Lord to show him the Vishvarupa Darshanam, meaning Arjuna wanted to see the entire world appearing as the Lord. So that is the highest form of devotion any devotee can attain, that everything we look at in this creation appears as the Lord to us. So Arjuna requested for this vision and Krishna granted him this vision, and Arjuna experienced at first many of the wondrous things in this creation. And he was delighted, he was excited, he was elated. And then he also realized that in this world, not only is there creation, not only is there birth, not only is there good experiences, but this world also has the negative aspect. So there is also death, there is also destruction and so forth. So earlier when he had a sense of elation, he saw all the wondrous things in nature. Then when he saw the destructive nature of the Lord, especially on this battlefield when thousands and thousands of soldiers were dying on the battlefield, he saw the Lord as the destructive force who's taking the life of all these soldiers. And then he realized that there is also destruction, and that caused him a lot of fear. So from feeling of happiness, from feeling of elation, he went into feeling of fear when he saw all this destruction. And then he asked the Lord, who are you actually? I don't understand. I thought you are the compassionate one. You are the kind one. How is it that you're also responsible for all this destruction? And the Lord explains that I have different roles to play in this creation. I am the creator. I'm also the preserver. And I'm also the destroyer. So when the time requires, what is required, I play that role. And then Arjuna realizes this, and then comes the third phase. What he goes through is feeling of reverence and devotion. So we went through also all those very beautiful prayer verses when he bowed down, prostrated before the Lord and glorifies him. So now in this verse 45, Arjuna carries on to make a request to the Lord. So now Arjuna is in a state of fear, and he wants to appeal something to the Lord. See, so he says to the Lord that he is not surprised that all the devotees, when they chant the names of the Lord, when they hear the glories of the Lord, they feel so much of reverence, so much of devotion, so much of happiness. So he says, I am very delighted, Lord, that you have also shown me this Vishvarupa Darshanam, all the beautiful things. But now I have a request. And what is that request? Verse 45, he says, Ashmi Rishita. Ashmi, I am. Rishita, I am delighted, I am uplifted. By what? Drishtva, having seen, having had a vision of your universal form. So I'm very grateful to you that you have followed my request, you granted my request. And I've seen things which are adrishta purvam. Adrishta purva means those which have never been seen before. So there are so many things that Arjuna saw in this creation, because remember, Vishwarupa Darshanam allowed him to see the past, allowed him to see the future, allowed him to see all the 14 lokas. That was the Vishwarupa Darshanam. The vision allowed him to see all this. So he says, I have witnessed so many things which I have never seen before. Past, present, future, positive, negative. But now he says, at this present moment, having seen the destructive nature, what is my condition? Me manaha, my mind is not only experiencing delights, but at the same time, pravyatitam, it is bewildered, confused with what? Bhayena, with fear. I cannot take all this destruction. It's too much for me. Okay. Now, why is that? If we look at Arjuna's condition, it's the same as our condition, isn't it? All of us can accept birth, we can accept wealth, we can accept victory, gain. It is very easy for us to accept all this. But when we also experience the negative aspects, death, war, destruction, decay, disease, loss, defeat, it is not very easy for us also to accept that. So Arjuna also says the same thing. I am pleased at seeing all the wondrous things, but at the same time, my mind is tormented by witnessing all this death and destruction. So now Arjuna wants to make an appeal to the Lord. So what is his appeal? He says, Deva. He addresses the Lord as Deva. Darshaya, please show me, please by your grace, show me what? Tat eva rupam, that very rupam, that very form. Which form does Arjuna wants to see? He's going to describe in the next verse. But here is telling the Lord, please take away this Vishwarupa Darshanam. I cannot take it anymore. I'm thankful, but I cannot take it anymore. So please show me that form. Okay, which form is that? Which is, he's going to describe. Now, before he makes a request, he also needs to make his salutations first. So before you make a request from the Guru, at least you have to make some salutations. So he bows down and salutes to the Lord, and he addresses him as Devesha. Devesha means the supreme God. You are the Deva of all the Devas. So we know that everything in this creation has got a Deva. Deva for sun is who? Surya Devta. Deva for wind is Vayu Devta. Devta for water is Varuna Devata. So everything in this creation has got one Deva. But here he's telling Lord, you are the Deva of all the Devas. So all the Devas get their powers, their glories from you. Everything is coming from you. So he addresses him as Devesa. You are the supreme Deva. And at the same time, you are the Jagan Nivasha. Jagan Nivasha here means the very ultimate refuge of everybody in this world. So the final refuge, when all the doors are closed, when you have nowhere else to go, Lord is the ultimate refuge. So what is his request? He says, Prashida, may you please be gracious to me. May you please show me the other form that I want to see. Now here we have to understand one thing. Why is Arjuna going through a phase of fear when he sees the destructive nature of this world? Because if we talk about the saints and the sages, they were able to handle all the positive and negative aspects of this world. They were realized souls, just like Arjuna. His level of realization has been elevated by the Lord. The Lord has granted him Vishwarupa Darshanam. But the saints and sages are able to take the positive and the negative. Many saints and sages in history, they were glorified. At sometimes they were also criticized. They were condemned also. Right? We can read the biography of all these saints and sages. They were even abused also. But they could accept it. They have no problem because their devotion for Lord was so intense that they could handle the negative aspect of nature. But here, Arjuna is not able to accept it. Now, if we go back to chapter 2, verse 56. Chapter 2, verse 56. These final 18 verses of the chapter 2, the Lord has painted a picture of a God-realized soul, the one who has attained the highest level of consciousness, and He has given the qualities of such a person who is known as a Sthita Prajna. So these last 18 verses in chapter 2 paints the nature of a Sthita Prajna. Who is a Sthita Prajna? Sthita means steady, Prajna means wisdom. So anyone who has reached the highest levels of consciousness is established in this wisdom of the scriptures. How does he behave? So if you look at verse 56, he says, such a person, his mind is not perturbed by adversity. Anything which goes wrong, he is not disturbed by it. Who does not crave for happiness. If happiness comes, he accepts it. If there is no happiness, he is not bothered by it. And why is he not bothered if there is no happiness? Why is he not bothered if there is no happy or positive incidences in his life? Why is such a person not bothered? If there is no happiness, he is not affected. Which happiness is he talking about in this verse? What type of happiness? No, he's not bothered even if this happiness is not there. So what type of happiness is he talking about here? Temporary happiness which is coming from the external world. So why is he not bothered if there's no external happiness coming? Because he has discovered the eternal permanent source of happiness within. So he's not disturbed. If there is happy situation in his life, he's okay. If it is not there, he's also okay. Why? Because he's already discovered that internal happiness within. So he says he does not crave for that external happiness. He is also free from fondness, fear and anger. Such a person is the Sthita Prajna. So Arjuna should have also had the same qualities. But Arjuna now is in a total state of fear, bhayam. He cannot take this destruction and death which is seen. Now the question we have to ask ourselves, why is that? If God has blessed him with Vishwarupa Darshanam, God has elevated him to the highest level of consciousness, why is he disturbed by all this death and destruction? So that, in fact, this is also for us to understand that all the saints and sages, how did they reach that state of supreme consciousness? By surrender, by their austerities, by their sadhana. So they put in effort to attain that state of consciousness. But how did Arjuna get his highest level of consciousness? Did he put in any sadhana? Did he do any austerities? Did he do any spiritual things? He was just blessed by Krishna. Krishna just elevated him. So it is not a natural way that Arjuna received these blessings from the Lord. So what does this tell us? All of us want to find a shortcut to the spiritual path. There is no shortcut to the spiritual path. You have to make sacrifices. You have to make commitments. You have to put in effort in sadhana. Then only you can attain this state. And how do you know if you attain this state? These last 18 verses in chapter 2 give us all the characteristics of a Sthita Prajna. If we have these characteristics, then we know we are moving closer and closer to the spiritual goal. Okay? So that 18 verses are very, very important for us to read, to understand. And that should be our goal, our benchmark when we progress on the spiritual path. Okay? So Arjuna makes his request now, which form he wants to see in verse 46. He says to the Lord, Aham ichhami, I wish, I desire, drashtum, to see, Tvam, to see you, O Lord. And now, which type of Lord is appearing in front of Arjuna? Vishwarupa Darshanam. He's seeing creation, he's seeing destruction, he's seeing everything. So he's speaking now to this form of the Lord. I want to see you, Tata Eva, just as before. But he specifies what type of vision he wants to have. Okay? He says, I want to see you wearing the kiritinam. Kiritinam means that crown on the head, which is worn by all those who are the mighty people, worn by the kings and worn by the emperors and the rulers of this world. So that Krishna form which wears also this crown also, number one. Number two, I want to see that form which is holding the gadinam, holding the mace in one hand. So wearing a crown, holding a mace in one hand, and in the other hand, Krishna holds the chakra hastam, holding a disc. So which form is this now? Is it the Vishwarupa Darshanam? No. Which form is this? The four-arm Krishna form. That's what he wants to see, the four-arm form. One hand holding the mace, one hand holding the chakra. Although it's not specified here, the other hand holding the lotus and wearing the crown. So what he's telling him is that please remove this Vishwarupa Darshanam. I don't want to see this anymore. Okay? I want to see that four-arm form. Now again, we must question ourselves, why does he want to see the four-arm form? Why not just say, I want to see you in the normal human form having two hands? So for this we must understand that Arjuna is in a disturbed state of mind. So he must have worshipped Krishna in this four-arm form, and this four-arm form is what the devotees also worship, that gives them happiness, that gives them inner peace. So right now that is what Arjuna wanted. He wanted that happiness, that inner peace. So he said, Lord, please show me that form which all the devotees worship, by which they find peace of mind, happiness, inner happiness. So that is what he's requesting. So he says to the Lord, O Lord, Sahasra Baho, now that you're appearing with me with 1,000 arms, Sahasra Baho means 1,000 arms, I don't want to see that form. Of infinite arms, infinite faces, I don't want to see that form. And the Vishwa Murte, Vishwa means the cosmic form. What is the cosmic form? That has thousands of heads, thousands of eyes, etc. All this I'm seeing is creating fear, power. And I want to see what Tena Eva Rupena, in that very form. So now he specifies what form. Chatur Bhujena. Chatur means four. Bhujena, four-arm form. That is the form I want to see. So he makes this request to Lord Krishna, the four-arm form which gives me absolute peace of mind. That is the form I want to see. Okay. So now he has made his request. So let us see in verse 47 how the Lord responds to Arjuna's request. So now in verse 47 you notice it says Sri Bhagavan Vacha. Now Arjuna doesn't speak anymore, Sanjaya doesn't speak anymore, it is the Lord now who speaks now. And what does he tell Arjuna? He says, it is you Arjuna that who requested to see the Vishwarupa. It is you Arjuna who requested, and I gave in to your request. Although you were not qualified to receive this darshanam, yet I gave you this request to see the vision of the whole world in the form of the Lord. So now he says, you have asked me to withdraw this form, I will do so. And how will I do? Atma Yoga. Atma Yoga, by the power of my yoga, we will see what is this power. By the power of my yoga, idam param rupam, idam, this param, supreme rupam, this supreme form, this universal form of mine, darshitam, has been shown to you by me. I will now remove it by the power of my yoga. Now the question is, what is this power of this yoga of the Lord? So this is nothing but Maya. Now, what is Maya? Many people don't understand what is this Maya. Maya has got the power of the Lord's power to veil himself from his devotees. So the Lord is there, he is everywhere in this creation. But why we don't recognize him? Why don't we experience him? This is the power of the Lord to veil himself from the devotees. So now we must ask ourselves, what is this veil made of? This covering, this Maya covering, what is it made of? For that we can go back to chapter 7 verse 14. That tells us what is this Maya made of. So in chapter 7 verse 14, page 141. Chapter 7 verse 14, page 141. The Lord describes what is the nature of this Maya that veils all the devotees from experiencing or recognizing the Lord. He says, verily this divine Maya of mine is made of the three gunas, sattvic, rajasic, tamasic. So what is Maya? Maya is nothing but the three gunas. And these three gunas have been created by who? Who has created these three gunas? Huh? The Lord has created the three gunas, right? So what is the purpose of the three gunas? The three gunas in us is for us to be what we call, have different aspects of our personality. Sattva gives us peace. Rajas makes us what you call greedy. So Rajas makes us greedy and active, and Tamas makes us lazy. So we need all these three. We need to be peaceful with Sattva, we need to be active when time requires with Rajas, and we need to take sleep and rest with Tamas. So all three qualities are in us. But what is our problem? All the three qualities we need, right? Do we need or we don't need? We need, right? All the three qualities. So, but what is the problem? All the three qualities are in all human beings, in this whole creation, the gunas are there. But what is the problem? When we give excessive importance to one type of activity, for example, if we give excessive importance to tamas, then we become ignorant, we become lazy, we procrastinate. That is tamas, the qualities of tamas. So if we give in to all these qualities, we become tamasic, right? If we give in to rajasic qualities, we become active. But when there is no sattva, we become active due to greed, due to anger, and etc., all those bad qualities. So how should we lead our lives? We should always ensure that sattva is there. Sattva is purity, sattva is knowledge, sattva is what we call pure actions. So if sattva is there, rajas helps us to push us in the right direction, and at the same time we need sleep, but we don't go and overdo that. So all the three qualities are there. But when we give in to too much of rajas, too much of tamas, then what happens? We go down the wrong path. So this is Maya. Maya is like an illusion. The three gunas, we cannot realize divinity. So there is a beautiful saying from Adi Shankaracharya, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya Jiva Brahmeva Na Para. Meaning, Satyam, the only thing, the only truth in this whole creation is Brahman. And the rest of this world, Jagat, is nothing but false, Mithya. So when we look at that, we have to ask ourselves, how can the world be false? I'm experiencing the world. This body also is part of the world. I'm experiencing this body. How can everything be false and only Brahman is the truth? So we use a very simple example to understand this. When we look at all the different ornaments, we see ring, we see bracelet, we see necklace and all this. We see ornaments of different shapes and sizes. But in reality, what are these ornaments? They are nothing but gold appearing in different forms. So, do all these ornaments exist? If you melt all these ornaments, they become nothing but gold. So in reality, only thing that exists in reality is gold. So this world is a projection of God. God is appearing as the world. But because of Sattvic, Rajas and Tamas, we don't see all that. We only see the plurality in life. We see shapes and forms. So the Lord has told us in chapter 7, how do we overcome these three gunas? How do we overcome Maya? He says by pure devotion. So bhakti is a very powerful sadhana that will help us to rise over tamas, rise over rajas, rise over sattva and attain the Lord. So all of us have to start with bhakti. Bhakti is very, very important. If not, we get entangled in these three gunas. Okay? So the Lord says, because of my power of Maya, I now remove that so that you can see this vision of the four-arm form. So, okay. Now, why does the Lord agree to Arjuna's request? He says in this verse 46, Prasannena, because I am pleased with you, Arjuna. Because you have been very humble, you have put your request in a very right way, you have prostrated, you have surrendered to me. So by being very pleased with you, I am following your request. So the Lord describes now the four qualities of this universal form that were revealed to Arjuna that he is going to withdraw right now. He says this universal form is Tejomayam. It abounds in radiance. It is the most radiant thing in this whole creation. So if you recall, there was a verse earlier we discussed where the sun is radiant, the moon is radiant, the stars are radiant, but where do they get their radiance from? Their radiance comes from that Supreme Being. Because of the radiance of the Supreme Being, everything else shines in this world. So Tejomayam. Second is, it is Vishwam. This form which I am going to withdraw now is the cosmic form. Cosmic means it covers everything in this creation. The whole creation is supported by it. And the third quality that the Lord gives is Anantam, infinite. Now when we say infinite, we must understand the meaning of infinite is that which is not limited by two factors, by time and space. So that is what we call infinite. Not limited by time means it existed before the creation, it exists now during the creation, and when this creation goes into dissolution, the Lord will continue to exist. So infinite in terms of time. Infinite in terms of space means what? Lord cannot be contained by a certain form. Lord is like space, He is everywhere. So we cannot contain Him in a particular place. He is present everywhere. So the Lord says, I am going to withdraw this form, which is the most effulgent, which is the infinite form. And this form has not been, na drishta purvam, has not been seen by any other person other than you. Now, meaning here that all the other people who have seen this form have put in the sadhana. They have come to realize this highest form. But you, Arjuna, I have just graced you because of your devotion to me. So he tells Arjuna, I am now going to withdraw this form. So that brings us to verse number 47. Okay, 48. So in verse number 48, here he tells us that, you see, now when we understand that we have to go through different sadhanas and we have to do austerities to realize this form, but now Krishna is telling us a different thing here in verse number 48. See, we wrongly think that if we give a lot of charity, we do a lot of fasting, we go to all the temples, we go on pilgrimages, we will attain liberation. But there is one thing missing in all this. This is what Krishna wants to tell us. So let us see what he tells us in this verse number 48. He says, Na Veda Yajna. Na Veda Yajna, not by the sacrifice of the four Vedas. Now, what type of sacrifice of the four Vedas? Adhyayanir. So, Lord is telling us here, even if a devotee diligently studies all the four Vedas, is a master of the four Vedas, understands all the verses, is able to recite all the verses, okay, is an expert, neither by the study of the Vedas, number one. Number two, na danir, neither by giving charity. If you are the person who gives tons and tons of charity, clothes, cash, food, whatever you give, he says even that also is not going to help you. So that doesn't mean you stop. I will tell you the secret behind it, okay? That doesn't mean you stop reading scriptures, don't give charity, okay? You must understand the message. Na kriyabir. Na kriyabir means not by the performance of rituals. You know, we do so many rituals, prayers, havan, yajna, this, that, all. Even that also is not going to help you. Na tapobir. We keep several austerities, fasting and all this. And he says there are some people who even keep austerities which are ugre. The word ugre means severe austerities. They torture themselves. Like example, you'll see sometimes in documentaries this some of the sadhus, they stand on one leg for 1 week or 1 month or 10 days. I've seen the documentary where they bury themselves in the sand for 30 days or something like that. So severe austerities they practice. So the Lord is saying, not by the study of the Vedas, neither by giving so much of charity, neither by doing rituals, neither by keeping austerities. The Lord says, even if you do all this, aham evam rupa na sakhya, you are not capable of seeing this Vishwarupa Darshana. No matter if you do all these things, if you think that you will get the vision, my supreme vision, it is not possible, okay, of getting this supreme vision. So now the question is, of course we will ask ourselves, then I'm doing all these things, I'm thinking that this will lead me to salvation. Now you're telling me that it's not going to help. So what is missing? What is missing in all this? Study of the Vedas, giving charity, performing austerities, and and doing all these prayers and all that. What is missing? What is the missing element? Devotion, exactly. So if you are doing it for some other purpose, if you are doing it to attain fame, you are doing it to attain riches, you are doing it for what other purposes, it is not going to help you. So what is it that is going to help you? Krishna is going to give us the answer in verse 55. In the final verse of this chapter, he will tell us what is it that is going to help us to progress to this highest level of spirituality. So if we perform everything without a pure devotion, it is not going to help us. What is going to help us? In verse 55, he will tell us. So now Krishna wants to agree to Arjuna's request. So what does he say in the next verse 49? He says, now he could see that Arjuna was still trembling in fear. He still had not got out of his state of fear. So to give him some support, some confidence, and to tell him that I will now go back to that four-arm form. So he's saying to Arjuna, Vyatha, this distress, Arjuna, that the state of fear that you're in, it was caused by drishtva, by seeing what? Idam rupam. This universal form of mind where you saw creation, you saw destruction, this is what has caused you the distress. Okay? So I want you to get out of the state of distress. Okay? So what do I do now? The Lord wants to comfort Arjuna. He's telling him, don't be distressed. The form that you saw has caused you distress. Now you've asked me to remove this form, I will remove it. So he's telling Arjuna that again, if we ask ourselves, what is it that causes us distress most of the time? What is it that causes us distress most of the time?
Overthinking.
You're getting near the answer. Overthinking or what? Overthinking or what? You're near the answers.
Past and the future.
Past and the future. So one Swamiji said, we are constantly thinking about the unborn future or the dead past. The past is dead and gone, and the future is not even there. It is not born yet. Yet we go on projecting things about the future. Very rarely our mind is here in the present. So I don't know how many of you are listening to me now. Maybe some of you are already projecting the future, projecting the past already. Future means what? So something which is not born, past is which is gone. So that which is, people have maybe said something to you, have insulted you, maybe 20 years back, you are still remembering it? No. So the same thing happened to Arjuna. He is distressed because he saw the future, he saw the past, and now he's totally in a state of distress. And the same thing happened to Arjuna. In fact, if you go back to chapter 1, he kept on talking about the war. These people will die, this will happen, that will happen, until Krishna had to come in and calm him down and tell him, don't grieve. I'm going to help you now, don't grieve. So in chapter 2, verse 11, same words that Krishna has used to Arjuna, don't grieve. You are grieving about the past and the future, don't grieve. So this is a lesson to us. So we have to keep positive, keep our mind in the present. Now the question is, when the mind is running, right, how do we control this mind? When the mind is running, how do we control? Can we suppress the mind? Is it possible to suppress? Yes, to a certain extent you can suppress. And what happens if your mind is disturbed and you express the thoughts? Then what happens? Supposing you're very angry and somebody comes in front of you, and out of your anger you just scold that person. So that also is wrong. But if you suppress the anger, is that going to be a problem? Somewhere or other you will explode somewhere. So what do you do then? Divert the mind. So the only way is to always divert the mind. And this is why we have all our mantras, we have our prayers, we have our rituals. All this is to keep the mind diverted into the right territory. So the same thing here is telling Arjuna, don't grieve. He is comforting Arjuna in this verse that do not grieve. So he's telling Arjuna, Vyapetabi, may you be free from this fear. May you be free from this fear. Prita Manaha, may your mind be peaceful, may your mind be calm. Okay? And I am going to now show you that form, Puna Eva, that previous form, the four-arm form. So he's agreeing to Arjuna's request. He's going to reveal now that four-arm form. So now while Krishna is changing the form from the universal form to the four-arm form, Krishna also doesn't speak, Arjuna also doesn't speak. So now Sanjaya adds in an extra verse here. So now Sanjaya speaks. He is describing what is happening now. So the verse says Sanjaya Uvacha, means Sanjaya spoke now. What did he say? He said, Vasudeva, Sri Krishna, here Vasudeva means Sri Krishna, Uktva, having spoken to Arjuna, what did he do? Darshaya Masa, he showed Arjuna again, Bhuya Swakam Rupam, his own form, the four-arm form. So from the universal form, he came down to the four-arm form, and then from the four-arm form, he will come back to his normal two-arm form. So right now, he showed Arjuna his four-arm form. And what happened? Again, Sanjaya is describing here Mahatma. He addresses Krishna as Mahatma, the great soul. Mahatma is two words. Mahatma means the great soul. Okay. He showed Arjuna the four-arm form, and to Enam Beatam, the terrified one, he calls Arjuna as a terrified one. So Arjuna is shaking with fear. The Lord showed him his four-arm form, and what type of form? Saumya Vapur. Saumya means a very serene form, the very pleasant form, the form that people worship. Okay? That is the form that Krishna now showed him to make Arjuna, to bring Arjuna's level of fear down, to comfort him. So there is a beautiful this what is called these 8 verses of hymn on Krishna. You can go to YouTube and key in Madhura Ashtakam. Ashtakam means 8 verses. Madhura, which speak about the sweet form of Lord Krishna. So it's a very beautiful recitation of these 8 verses, Madhura Ashtakam, put to music, and it what you call glorifies all the various aspects of Krishna. So this is the form that now Krishna is showing to Arjuna. Now Arjuna sees this form. What is the impact it is having on Arjuna? The next verse 51 reveals that. Arjuna describes now his own emotions. So now he addresses Krishna as Janardana. That's another beautiful form of address of Krishna. Janardana has 2 words in it. Jana means people. Ardana means the one who is worshipped. So Janardana means the one who is worshipped by the masses. The very form that people worship, Janardana. Okay? So he addresses Krishna as as Janardana, the four-arm form. He says, Idanim, now, Asmi, I have samvritaha, I have become. Upon seeing this four-arm form, what is my condition now? I have become sacheta, I become calm in my mind. My mind is now free of any fear and is endowed with devotion and peace. So he is grateful to the Lord for answering his request, and he says, Drishtva, having seen idam, this form of yours. So now from the four-arm form is now coming down to the natural two-arm form. So he says, having seen your manusham rupam, your this human form, okay, the four-arm form, which is what? Saumyam, which is serene, which is gentle, which is pleasing. I have now regained my prakriti, I have regained my natural state. I am now calm and composed. Okay? So now what happens? He has expressed to Krishna his thanks of coming down to the form. His mind is serene. Now the last few verses from 52 to 55, now Krishna summarizes about this, what you call the universal form and the four-arm form. So these are the final 4 verses. Krishna will summarize the glory of the Vishwarupa Darshanam. So here he says, again you see the word Sri Bhagavan Vacha. So now the Lord starts speaking. What does he say? Idam Rupam, this form, Mama, of mine Arjuna, yet which you have Drishtavan Asi, which you have witnessed, that means this universal form that you have witnessed, is Sudur Darsham, is very, very difficult for anyone to realize this form. Why is it so difficult for us to realize this Vishwarupa Darshanam, this universal form? Because when the majority of people pray to the Lord, what do they ask for? Do they ask for Vishwarupa Darshanam? What do they ask for? What does the majority of people ask for? Do they ask for, I want to have full knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. I want to have full knowledge of Vedas. I want to know the Upanishads. What do they ask for? All the material, worldly things. So, the Lord is going to answer your request depend on what you ask for. If you constantly ask for Vishwarupa Darshanam, definitely you will acquire. Maybe not in this life, because as Hindus we are very lucky, we can come back for some more births, so no problem. But if that is what you desire, if that is what your goal is, definitely you will attain. So the Lord is saying, Sudur Darshanam. In fact, in chapter 7, if you go back to chapter 7, verse 3, there also the Lord cautioned us. Chapter 7, verse 3. Page number 136. Chapter 7, verse 3, page 136. Among thousands of men, scarcely one strives for perfection. Thousands of people, one is just putting in the effort to become a better person, to follow the path of Dharma. Whereas the others are not interested. They are following their selfish desires. So Krishna says, out of 1,000 people, one is striving, putting in the effort. And out of those who strive, who are also striving, 1 out of 1,000 will succeed. So out of the millions, 1,000 are putting in effort. Out of the 1,000 putting in effort, 1 out of the 1,000 will succeed. Because why? It is not easy to be disciplined. It is not easy to make commitment to the spiritual path. There are too many attractions and distractions in this world. Okay, and as society progresses, there are more and more distractions. So it is not easy to keep to this path. So that's why Krishna has already told us, you have to put in a lot of discipline, you have to put in a lot of effort and sacrifice if you want to succeed on this path. So coming back to this verse again, the Lord says it is Sudur Darsham, it is very difficult for a human being to come to this path also. Then he says, Deva, the divine ones, okay, in verse number 50, he says verse number 52, right, 52. Deva, the divine ones in Swarga Loka, he's saying even the gods who are in Swarga Loka, even they are always Darshana Kangshini. They are desirous of this vision of the universal form. And even they find it difficult to get this vision. Now, why even forget about the humans, he's saying, talk about the Devas in heaven. Even they cannot attain this form. They cannot see the vision of this Vishwarupa. Again, we ask ourselves, why? Why is it difficult for the Devas? They are the purified ones. They have done so much of good in this world. They've gone to Swarga Loka. Even they cannot get a vision of the Lord. Again, the question is why? So, what is the answer? Forget about humans. Even the Devas also, they are desirous of this vision, but even they cannot get this vision. Why is that?
They didn't ask for it.
So why are they in Swarga Loka?
Because they are enjoying all the pleasures.
Why they went to Swarga Loka? Why didn't they attain God? They did so many good things, but they went to Swarga Loka. Because they wanted the pleasures and enjoyments of Swarga Loka. They had no interest in attaining God. They did all these activities as human beings. They gave charity, they came for Gita classes, they did rituals, prayers. But what was their purpose? Their purpose was not to attain God. Their purpose was to go to Swarga Loka. So he says even the Devas, they are also longing to get this vision of the Vishwarupa. So now again in verse number 53, he repeats back what he said earlier. He says, neither by the study of the Vedas, na Vedir, okay, nor by penance also, by doing all the austerities, etc. also. He says, na tapas, not by doing all the penance, na danena, nor by doing charity also. He says, can I be seen in this Vishwarupa Darshan? It is not possible at all. So he's highlighting to us that it is not easy, it needs a lot of commitment. So now he's going to tell us what is going to help us to attain this higher state of realization. So in verse number 54 now, he tells us, so he has given us all the sadhanas which are not going to help us, but what is missing in that sadhana now he's going to tell us. And what is that? Ananya Bhakti. The word here is Ananya Bhakti. So let us look at what he says here. Ananya Bhakti means single pointed devotion. Now, what do we mean by single pointed devotion? He talks about his Ananya Bhakti. But what do you mean by single pointed devotion? So you can see in 54, verse 54, the first line, Bhaktiya Tva Ananya, Ananya Bhakti, single pointed devotion. What do we mean by single pointed devotion? This single pointed devotion also has another name. It's called Tibra Bhakti, T-I-B-R-A, Tibra Bhakti, which means intense Bhakti. So what is this intense Bhakti? Intense Bhakti means I want to attain the Lord. I want to be one with the Lord. So all my prayers, all my rituals, all my study of scriptures, all the charity that I do, my goal is only one, is to attain the Lord. I am not interested in promotion, I am not interested in wealth, I am not interested in fame, I am not interested in anything. My only sole aim is to be one with the Lord. That is called single pointed devotion, Tivra Bhakti. So in our prayers, in our rituals, before we start our rituals, there's what is called as the Sankalpa prayer. That means before you start the ritual, we will do a little Sankalpa prayer. Sankalpa means what is your desire for doing this ritual? What is your purpose for doing this ritual? Am I doing it to get a good spouse? Am I doing it to get a happy family? Am I doing it to get a promotion? So that Sankalpa is very important. As you're doing the ritual, as you're doing the prayer, what is your motive for doing that? That which is your motive, that is what you will get. So that is very important. Whatever you do, your prayers, even when you're giving charity, what is your motive for giving charity? You're doing it as a service to the Lord. That is your motive, then it is pure. So here the Lord is talking about Ananya Bhakti. Okay. So this Tivra Bhakti or Ananya Bhakti is the most important point in all our spiritual practices. So here the Lord says in verse 54. Now verse 53, he told us what won't help us to get this Vishwarupa Darshanam. Now in verse 54, he uses the word tu. So the word tu is very, very important. It means what is going to help us to get this Vishwarupa Darshanam. So he says, Ananya Bhakti, single pointed devotion. Only by single pointed devotion, evam vida, this form Sakya can be realized. The highest form, the highest state of realization, any devotee can attain it only through Ananya Bhakti. What is Ananya Bhakti is the same as what we use another term we call Nishkama Bhakti. So what is Nishkama Bhakti? Nishkama has got two words. Kama means desires. Nishkama means devoid of desires. When you have no worldly desires, your only reason for worship is only to attain God. What is the opposite of Nishkama Bhakti? It is called Sakama Bhakti. Sakama means with desires. So we pray, we do rituals, we keep fast. Our purpose is to attain our worldly desires. So Sakama Bhakti, the opposite is Nishkama Bhakti. So the Lord says only by single pointed devotion, by Nishkama Bhakti or Ananya Bhakti can I be realized. So what is the path of Ananya Bhakti? He says, I can be known. Nyatum. First thing is to know me. So how do we know about the Lord? We have to study the scriptures. The first step is, if I have devotion to the Lord, I must know the nature of the Lord. Who is the Lord? What is the Lord? Where is the Lord? So how do I know everything about the Lord? The first thing is by the study of the scriptures. Study of the scriptures with the guidance of a qualified master. That is very important. Okay. Then we come to know about the Lord. Also, he says, Drashtum Tatvena, then you will come to realize the Lord. First, you know about Him, then you come to experience Him, you come to realize Him. And finally, Praveshtum, you enter, you merge with the Lord. So, there are three steps. First, I know Him, I know His nature, then I realize, I come to realize Him, I come to experience Him, and the third step is I become one with Him. I merge with the Lord. So these are the three steps of Ananya Bhakti. If you have single pointed devotion, you will go through all these three steps very easily. Okay? So finally, in verse number 55 here, he summarizes what are the 5 essential practices of a devotee who is eager to attain liberation. So there are 5 practices that we all, if we are interested to reach that ultimate goal, this is his final advice here. First practice, Mat Karma Krit. Mat Karma Krit means perform all your actions for my sake. That means convert all your actions. When we say all your actions, it means worldly actions and spiritual actions. Convert all your actions into worship. How do we convert all our actions into worship? How do we convert all our actions into worship? By mentally dedicating all your actions to the Lord. That means, what is our motive? Even if I'm doing worldly actions, my motive must be, all I'm doing is to serve you, O Lord. If I'm looking after the family, it is for serving you. If I'm giving charity, it is my service to you, O Lord. So everything mentally we try to invoke the Lord. Every action that we do, it is my service to the Lord. So first of all, he says, convert all your actions mentally that you are serving the Lord also. Okay. If I am successful in anything, what do? I must mentally thank the Lord. Right? Everything that I do, I must try to invoke the blessings of the Lord. So that is the first thing. Second is Mat Paramo. Mat Paramo means accept me as the supreme goal. I make God as your ultimate goal. Now, when we make God as our ultimate goal, what happens? Always we keep in mind that the Lord is my ultimate goal. Then any action that I do will not go against the scriptures, will not go against Dharma. So as long as I keep God as my ultimate goal, it will ensure that all my actions are in accordance with Dharma. Third is Mad Bhakta. Be my devotee. That means every day with commitment, daily engage in some form of spiritual practices. Keep time aside daily for some form of spiritual practices. Do your prayers, read the scriptures, chant your mantras, perform your prayers every day. Make sure you're in constant touch with the Lord. Whether you do it for 15 minutes or 30 minutes or 1 hour, that depends on you. But make it a daily habit. Like you brush your teeth, like you take your bath, also make it a daily habit also. Third. Fourth, Sangha Varjita. Be devoid of attachment, meaning practice detachment. Now, detachment doesn't mean that tomorrow you give away all your possessions. If you want to, I can tell you where to give, so no problem. So, detachment does not mean we should not possess anything. Many people get this wrong idea. Detachment means I give up everything. I go to forest, sit down and chant Rama, Rama, Rama. It's not going to work. So detachment does not mean we should not possess anything. Real detachment means nothing should possess you. Not that you cannot possess, but nothing should possess you. What do we mean by that? Meaning, with or without these possessions, I am happy. Learn to be happy with the minimum amount of possessions. Okay? So, whether you have an award, whether you see many people, when they do something good and people don't come and thank them, people don't come and praise them, what happens to us? When I do something good, I do some charity, I make sure everybody knows about it, but nobody comes and thanks me, nobody comes and praise me. Then what do I feel? Huh? Happy or sad? Sad, right? But one thing we don't realize, even if nobody comes and praise me, nobody knows what I have done, the good I have done, who is the only one who knows? God knows, isn't it? And who is important to you? Is it society knows about your good deeds or God knows about your good deeds? So as long as I do things and the Lord is aware that I'm doing these good things, I should be content. Whether anybody praises me or congratulates me, it is not important. Because worldly praises and all tomorrow can change to criticism. But it is only God who knows of my good nature, who knows what are the good things I'm doing. As long as God knows, I'm happy. So, Sangha Vivarjita, live, be content with whatever you have. You, not that you don't possess anything, but tomorrow, if you don't have something, also you should be in a state of happiness. You should not allow objects to possess you also. And how we should also understand that everything is but a blessing from the Lord. So it is the Lord who gives, it is the Lord also who has the right to take away also. So that is the fourth. Now, then the fifth one is Nirvaira. One of the most very difficult things to follow. Nirvaira. Free from enmity. Free from hating people, being angry with people, despising people. Nirvaira. Okay? And you might say Nirvaira is okay, but can I hate one or two people? Is okay. No. My neighbor I can hate. This person I can hate. No. So here Krishna adds in one more term. Nirvaira sarva bhuteshu, to everybody. So one of the most not easy thing to practice. Okay. But this is something, because when you start hating people, who does it hurt more? The person you hate or yourself? You're actually killing your own self. By having anger and hatred towards other people, you're actually burning your own self. You're actually hurting your own self. And every negative aspect we have in our mind is a barrier to our spiritual growth. So ego, jealousy, greed, lust, hatred, all are barrier to our spiritual growth. Nirvaira sarva bhuteshu. So as the saying goes, why should we forgive others who have hurt us? People have hurt us. I have hatred towards those people. Why should I forgive them? Why should you forgive people who hurt you?
Free yourself.
To free yourself from the torture you are going through. So you're not doing anybody a favor by forgiving them. You're doing yourself a favor by forgiving them. That is the greatest favor you can do. You get peace of mind, you get calmness of mind. So the Lord has given us these 5 sadhanas to follow, and He says, Saha, anyone who follows these 5 steps, Saha eti mam, the person will attain me. So these are the 5 magic formulas He's given us, that He guarantees us that if you follow these 5 sadhanas, these 5 practices, that devotee will attain me. Meaning what? There will be no more rebirth again in the cycle of birth and death. Okay. So this is the final promise also the Lord has given us. Saha eti mam, that person will attain me for sure. Okay. So thus ends this chapter 11, and when we come back next week, we will resume with chapter 12. Chapter 12 is the final portion of the middle section of the Gita. Chapters 7 to 12 deal exclusively with Bhakti Yoga. So the bhakti portion will end with that chapter 12, which we chant in every class. So let us come back and understand the meaning of the verses. Okay, with that we will end the class for today. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kansa Chanuramardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. Thank you. Hari Om.